Can you win the Hong Kong Derby? How do you assess your chances with Romantic Warrior?
I think I have a horse that is got a very good preparation, that's going into the race with a strong chance.
Harris, where do you think you'll end up from gate 8?
I would like to use his natural speed this time and try to get him into a forward position.
Racing at the 2,000 metre mark, and the Irishman and Nordic Sky allowed to amble out of the gates, and no speed from Senor Toba. California Spangle with high pace from barrier number 10, and just around the first turn he's going to be in front of Money Catcher. Romantic Warriors on the inside from SJ Torbian and Champion Dragon the Rail.
Yeah, I like Romantic Warrior. Romantic Warrior ran a length and a half quicker. So he was making ground on him despite all of that. So there's a few factors there that I think will be a big factor in him turning the table.
I'll go for Romantic Warrior from Turin Red Star and Senor Topa.
California Spangle, can he run it out? Money Catcher to the inside. Romantic Warrior, 3 horse go in the Derby. California Spangle, 2 horse go. Romantic Warrior, the Spangle lifts, the Warrior comes. Romantic Warrior takes the lead, and Romantic Warrior wins the Derby for Karis Teton. Romantic Warrior beat California Spangle. Money Catcher, Senor Toba.
Welcome everyone, Hong Kong Racing Podcast, episode 2 of our second season as we reflect on an incredible Hong Kong Derby. I'm Jason Richardson. I'm sitting with Hutchi's Honkers, Clint Hutchison, and we've got the Hall of Famer in RS Dye, part of our team. And Hutch, what a Derby. Our man Karis Teton delivered.
He did deliver. Well, yeah, fantastic Derby. This was one of the better Derbies that they've ever had in Hong Kong, without a doubt. We'll talk more about that later, but it delivered on every facet of the race, really. We had a great battle with the 2 best horses in the race over the concluding stages. A brilliant moment for Karis Teton, his first Derby redemption after being beaten the year before. And, I think we've unearthed a couple of very good ones. But it lived up to the hype. And, like I said, we'll talk more about the quality of it, but it was certainly a spectacle.
And well found by you, Shane Dye. And the tactics with Karis, the discussion, he nailed it.
Yeah, you had to go forward. The track early on was playing more midfield to forward than back. And with the other horse going to get a soft lead, which I pointed out, there was no pace in the race. And Tony Cruz was always going to take the pace out of the race and allow their horse to dictate. You couldn't get back. The good thing about the Derby this year, and I'm sure Clint will agree with this, when you did the form in the race, there was only 6 chances that had a possible hope to place. And the other 8 had no hope. And they ran the first 6. So it wasn't hard to work the form out. They were first 1 to 6. So it stood up the form. It was a great race. I was surprised the second horse ran the distance, but he put up a mighty performance. Good rides by Zach, good ride by Karis, and there was no excuses.
And supported by a great call too when it became the Spangle versus the Warrior. It was fantastic stuff. So well done to Mark and the team calling absolutely beautifully. Huge show coming up. We're going to burst out of the gates. Of course, we've got Occy and Vianna across the Genius and the Slaughter. We've got star power, and it's a man who's been on the sidelines, but our Aussie racing fans will know him really well in Luke Currie. He's going to join us. Of course, we always learn a lesson in the Hong Kong Jockey Club Racing School. Looking forward to that. And then the 2 geniuses will find us a stack of winners. But first, we're going to burst out of the gate. And as we burst out of the gates, I put this to you straight away, RS Dye. I heard a bit of chat post the Derby about the quality of the race. Was it a good Derby or bad Derby in regards to the quality of the winner and the runner-up?
The winner and the runner-up are very good. They're A grade. They're going to dominate and be competitive in all Group 1 races. And Golden 60 with the second horse in the Derby, he's going to have to give him a start in races, and Vincent's going to have to be in his game next season because over a mile when he leads, he's going to be very, very hard to run down.
Good Derby, Hutch?
Oh, this best 2,000-metre race of the season for me. In terms of ratings, I had it better than the 2,000-metre race in December, of course, won by Love's Only You. So just under a length better than that performance. Now, they're exceptionally good, these two. They're clearly going the right way. I agree with what Shane said as well in terms of California Spangle. I thought he might be a bit vulnerable over 2,000, but this is a peak figure for him as well. So he can win from 1,200 to 2,000. Hong Kong's needed another couple of stars, and I think this year's Derby's definitely unearthed them.
So on California Spangle, did you like him enough at 2,000 to say that's his best trip, or you'd like him to throttle it back to a mile?
It's very... before the Derby, I would have said definitely a mile's his go, because, I mean, obviously you got Golden 60 there, which would have put a few off. But as Shane said, he's got the polar opposite run style. He will be leading. Golden 60, we know how they like to ride him. And if he gets some cheap sectionals, and how slow have they gone in some of those mile races? So, no, I think the options are open, but I'd love to see him take on Golden 60 and see that matchup.
Shane, what's his best trip, you reckon?
Maybe a mile, but I'll tell you this, and you might be surprised. I thought he had no hope of running 2,000. He ran the 2,000 right out. He pulled. Sack used him out of the gates to clear them. Then he pulled a little bit. He didn't quite relax enough. And then he got taken on at the 700 metres. If he probably doesn't get taken on at the 700, he definitely wins, but he did. I think now, watching that run, he'll run 2,400 metres lobbing along in front. You can have him anywhere from 1,200 to 2,400 metres, but I'd say his best journey will end up a mile.
And that's the sweet spot, and that's where the good money is, isn't it? A mile, 2,000 metres. Shane, you touched on Vincent Ho and pressure. You used to eat pressure for breakfast. You rode some of the highest profile horses going around. What about the pressure on him re Golden 60?
Oh, it's huge now. Vincent did an amazing job, as I said last December, all the way through riding him. But I think his last two rides have been very bad. So he's under pressure. He's got to produce the goods. You know, you can always ride a good horse bad once, but you can't do it 2-3 times. And he'll know that. So he knows him well. He's got a lot of confidence in him. But it's reversed now. There was no pressure on him 3 runs ago because he kept winning. But once you start getting beat, the pressure adds up, and it's definitely on him.
And as we know, Shane, in Hong Kong, you get beat a couple of times. The other jockeys, they'll be circling the boat, just throwing their name out there, and they'll be putting some pressure on to probably try and get the ride.
No doubt, but the thing with Hong Kong is you're limited in jockeys. There's not many, so who are you going to look for? There's 3 now: Teton and the other 2, Joe and Zach, and of course Zach will have California. Joe rides. What does Joe ride? Nothing probably now, does he? In the miles, more or less. He's a bit empty now, so maybe Joe. I don't know, but I'd give Vincent another go. He's done such a wonderful job, and just hope he produces goods next time.
Well, Joe will have his hand up. Shane, going back on your career just for a moment, was there a ride that you thought, gee, I tell you what, I got that 100% wrong? And would Vincent know that he's got it wrong the last 2 times?
Yes, he would definitely know. He wouldn't quite realise last time as much as I did, but he would definitely know he got it wrong 2 starts ago, and he would definitely know he can't be sitting back circling them now. I just hate it. You're on the best horse, cut the corner, come out when you've got to. He'll finish quicker than anything. So he's covering a lot of ground on him, and he's getting older now. And that's the other thing. And we saw that with Beauty Generation. As he got older, he lacked his judge. And Zach actually in his last 2 seasons tried to, I don't think he rode him as well as he was before, because he was trying to keep him out of trouble and keep him leading or get off the fence, and he would have been better left alone. So it's up to Vincent. He'll turn it around and he'll ride a good race next time.
Yeah, well, I hope he does, because he's got to turn around his form, his own form. Don't worry about the horse. He's ridden 2 from his last 50. He's going at 4%. He's not riding in anywhere near where he was with the confidence early in the season. And as we said, I think on one of our opening shows, really, it's such a confidence game, sport in general, riding, and maybe this is the catalyst that can, get him back in the groove. But he's dropped right off, Vincent, so he's got to turn it around.
Sweep for home now. Gatherno on the inside. Viander Cross has come very wide after him. Viander Cross in front of Mannerism. Viander Cross answering the urgings of Shane Dye ahead in front. Mannerism coming at him. Viander Cross. Viander Cross looked to have the race won 100 metres from home. Mannerism has got it.
Daring tactics by Shane Dye. Will they pay off? He's got Octagonal in full flight on the corner. But bold tactics by Shane Dye are going to pay off, and he pinches the Chipping Norton.
We call it genius or slaughter, but I know all of our audience love it. They call it Hutchi or Viander Cross. We remember Shane Dye with great passion. The brilliant ride in the Chipping Norton on Octagonal, and maybe one that he might have got at centimetre wrong in Vienna Cross, though he disagrees. Hey, RS, the floor is yours. We start with Genius, and you've got an interesting jockey by the name of Ruin Meyer under your microscope.
This was last week, of course, International Day. It was a very, very good ride. He allowed the horse to get back and he cut the corner. Here we go. Okay, you see him out here. Now, the hardest thing to do, you see a lot of jockeys try to get in, they push forward, they get trapped 4 wide, then they pull them back. He's in gate 11 red cap. He never pulled him back. He allowed him to drift in. Now, you see him looking. He's going to get in, and that horse has wasted no energy by trying to go forward, pulling him back, and he's relaxed. He did a fantastic job. He's won off the fence, and he keeps him in his rhythm the whole race, and this is the key to riding back markers. You can't be getting checked, going back, going forward. He doesn't panic on him at any stage, and he actually follows the second horse. He doesn't push out at the 600. He stays one off. You watch him. He doesn't try and put one round him and get going. And he knows the best part of the track is down the middle by this stage. Well, he should, because that's where they're winning from. He doesn't come out here before the turn, and then he just follows the horse in the green out. He doesn't cover ground on the bend, and he just had him so smooth in his action. He never got him off balance. He never changed stride. And to me, that is the perfect ride for a back marker. And it's a 10 out of 10 ride. And he had so much energy because he hadn't wasted it early by trying to go forward, then pulling him back. The horse was relaxed in his stride, and he hit the line in the best part of the track and won. All credit to him. Perfect ride. And I felt that was the best ride last weekend. Or even in the Derby, Zach's ride was outstanding. And also Teton's ride was very good on the winner. They were both outstanding rides.
So the Ocky goes to Ruin Meyer for his ride on Golden Empire. And talking about Golden 60 runs in a couple of weeks' time. So watch this space. It'll be great to see him back. All right, that's all very nice. That's kind. That's beautiful. Now, who cops a little clip? One across the chops. Who slaughtered one?
It's actually not a slaughter. The stewards had him in, and it looked really bad on the side on because Vincent Ho on Wednesday night had a run in the middle of the straight. You'll see it here. He's the horse circled here. And he said he heard Joe call to him and he pulled off. Now, when you're riding without confidence, something like that affects you and you pull straight off because you don't want to check them. But he did nothing wrong here. And you'll see him here. He cuts back in instead of going out. So he comes in, there's a run. But you see Joe comes out a little bit. And if you go back a bit, you'll see it better. Just rewind that back if you can, please, and have another look at it. You'll see. Because the stewards had him in. You see he comes in here and Joe's going to come out, and he said Joe called to him. He comes in and Joe pulls away from him even though he didn't touch him. Joe talked him out of that run. Joe would have screamed at him. Now, if you're riding with confidence, you don't move because you know that horse should have run closer. It's someone riding with no confidence. Someone yelled at him, but it wasn't a slaughter through the run. He gave it a good ride through the run just there.
That's fascinating. Can we have a look at that again? Because if we roll it back to that point that you highlighted, Shane, there was a decision to be made there. So he comes and he's actually, his horse and Joe's horse are next to each other. You're saying that Joe's saying, hey, Jock, I've got this spot.
Hey, don't. And all of a sudden, Vincent shits himself and pulls straight off because of it. Yet he didn't need to, and you'll see it here. He comes in, Joe comes to come out, but see how Joe just switched away from him a little bit? And Joe would have screamed at him, and he pulled straight off. So Joe talked him or screamed his way out of it. That's what I think happened. And actually, if you read the steward's report, that's what Vincent said. So if it was me, I would have known there was a run and I hadn't done anything, but when you're a little bit uncertain and you're not riding with a lot of confidence, things like that do affect you.
Yeah, it was not a good watch for our subscribers either because Gorgeous Inheritor was that horse, a good each-way price, and Joe worried him out of that spot. I know Shane liked the winner. Well done, Shane. You found that winner. But
I was happy Joe called to him. Don't worry about that.
Trust me, we weren't on Gorgeous Vitality. There was nothing gorgeous about it.
No, and if it runs a place, it would have been okay, but that's racing sometimes.
We try to regroup. And when we regroup by learning something. Hey, well done, Shane. That was fantastic. Hong Kong Racing School. learned some lessons with our two Hong Kong experts in regards to various things about Hong Kong racing. Hutchi, and you and Shane are fantastic at this, educating our international audience. Let's talk about participants first in Hong Kong. We're about to chat to Luke Currie, and he's just new into the Hong Kong area. Tell us about the participants and what it's like in that Hong Kong bubble.
Yeah, well, it is a bubble. It's very much a bubble. Everything's centralised in Hong Kong when it comes to jockeys, trainers, owners, even all the veterinary or the executive types of things. But there's a set amount of, obviously, jockeys at the moment, around 24, and they have a mix or a blend of the local riders and a lot of riders, obviously, that come in from overseas and usually have got to have done very well from whatever racing jurisdiction you come from.
And is 24 enough, or there should be more?
It can vary a little bit. It can be a little bit more, but look, 14 is the size of a field, so jockeys get suspended or injured, so they might tinker with that number a little bit. That's a little bit more flexible. 21 trainers. David Ferraris is retired at the moment. There'll be another spot there coming in. Jamie Richards will be there next season, we know, and there may be another addition to those ranks, and that's another one where they take their time and sort of go through those numbers, but it's roughly that sort of number. And then, of course, we would talk about the owners as well. I mean, to become an owner in Hong Kong, you need to effectively become a member, which is a bit like the MCG here in Australia. You've got to be nominated by other members to become a member, and then once you're a member of the club, then you can put into a ballot for your ownership. So those are the sort of participants, and just briefly, all the stewards, the vets, everyone with the jockey club, all that is centralised and done with them. So it's very much a bubble, like you said. They're all in it together, and it's all controlled by the jockey club. And for example, just as a point of interest with the owners, like the owners will pay the jockey club, that they don't pay the trainers direct. So the trainers aren't chasing their bills, etc., and all that type of stuff. So it's a very unique system from that perspective.
And talking about the bubble, right behind you is a picture of Sha Tin, and that's where you grew up because your dad was a trainer there.
Right here.
So if you're a trainer and you're a jockey, you live within that bubble. You have to. That's part of the rules.
Most of them do. The jockeys and trainers, they're all given residence, and they can take it or they can live off course if they want to. But they prefer the jockeys to be on course. Now, Luke, who we're going to chat to in a moment, I think the jockey club now have some apartments as well on the other side, just around the corner there, so he'll have a lovely view.
That island up there is not where Shane was it? Did you?
Shane would have been somewhere else for sure.
Where were you, Shane?
No, I lived on course. See, what happens is the jockey club gives you accommodation on course. I actually moved out and lived in town for 2 years, which I really enjoyed. But you have to pay your own rent if you move into town, and it's not cheap. It adds up. But if you live on the course, the jockey club covers all that.
Very convenient, you see, Richo. They live here. They literally walk down to the track. Yeah. It's a track work in the morning, so it's quite convenient for the riders
so
and traders.
Pick up a little coffee on your way through. Hey, one thing that I absolutely love, and Shane, can you explain it to us? With the Hong Kong Jockey Club, I find it so easy to access information. Their website is extraordinary. It must be easy for you as a form analyst, Shane, and as a punter to extract that information to be able to turn into profit.
Oh, definitely. I've got my own database, but it probably runs through the Hong Kong Jockey Club, the people that do it for me anyway. They've got everything there. It's so easy to access. They have all the replays, stewards, films. They've got everything, pricing of horses, and you can go back over all the information. The biggest two things that they have there are the vet reports all the time, updated, and, of course, the body weights. And that's something they don't do in Australia, which I've always complained about and should, because in my view, body weights of horses are very, very important. And you don't get that in Australia, but you do in Hong Kong before every race meeting.
I was talking to Shane about that once before. I'd love to have it because they're all on course early a few hours. If you just had a weighing machine,
easy. Easy. I've spoke to them. Easy. It's just their thing to me was the cost. And I said, are you kidding me? I asked officials once and they said, it costs too much money. I said, what? To put one weighing machine, and when that horse gets off the float, that's how you would do it. It gets weighed at the races, and then it goes onto the racing website, whether it be New South Wales, Victoria, or whatever, and those weights come out every race meeting. That's how it should be done because they're very vital.
And where it's important, where you might like to watch trials, you might like to watch track work, and I'm sure this is his view, if most people, you kind of don't need to watch a lot of it. If you know a horse is at his fighting weight or where he's been winning before, you don't need to see really how much or what he's done, because you know, okay, he's around where he needs to be based on previous evidence. So I think it's a great tool. I agree with what Shane said. But yeah, that website, just for those who are not sure, hkjc.com, it's got everything there. And through the series, we'll go through and point out different things on the site that to make it a bit easier for you to navigate.
Yeah. It has track work on there too, so you can watch track work, which you can't in Australia. So you get their track work. But in saying that, I don't watch much track work until I start backing them, because take John Sires, for instance. None of his horses gallop fast. They all do the same, so you don't need to watch them. It's a waste of time. And a lot of trainers don't actually test their horses' track work now, so you don't need to watch a lot of track work.
Sorry, Shane, I was trying to interrupt you. I just said you didn't like riding track work either back in the day, so it's not surprising you don't like watching it these days, I suppose.
No, I loved riding track work.
Did you?
I was always keen on track work. I loved it. I'll tell you what, that's one disadvantage of living at the racecourse. They know, because there's a guard on the gate, right? So when you come home, they write you down what time. So you got to be very careful. They know exactly, the jockey club, where you're going and what time you're getting home.
RSI walking through with a hat, glasses, hoodie on, trying to disguise. Hey, I'll tell you what, the Hong Kong Jockey Club, that website is fantastic. Yeah. Maybe this podcast slotted on might be the only addition that I'd change. That's the only thing that I'd probably add to it. One of these days. And hey, one thing we will do in the future is actually go through all the different discussion points in regards to gear for horses.
Yes.
Very different names for our Australian audience. We will translate a lot of that as well. But we've got a star power that we've got to add to this show. It's coming up. And our star power this week is one of the most popular jockeys in Australia, who is now calling Hong Kong home. He's got 13 Group 1s and his great CV, a real resurgence in recent years on the back of the McAvoy team. He's one of the good guys. His name is Luke Currie. Unfortunately, he's injured at the moment, but he joins us. Lukey boy, an absolute pleasure to see you, mate. How are you?
Good, thanks, Richo. Hi, Hutch. Hi, Shane. Yeah, it's nice. Thanks for having me on.
How are you enjoying it, mate? Let's take the injury to a side. Are you enjoying being part of this? We've just described it as this big bubble in Hong Kong.
Yeah, well, I haven't got to experience much of it. When I got here, I spent 3 weeks in quarantine in Happy Valley, and then I got out of quarantine on the Friday, and the next Friday I was in hospital. So I was only really out and able to move around for a week, and then since I've been out of hospital, there's been quite strict quarantine rules for the jockeys and the racing participants. I haven't been part of the riding group, so I've been able to do a little bit more, but I don't really know anyone here, so getting around on my own, I haven't done a whole lot.
Luke, that little week or so that you did spend riding, fantastic result. If any rider comes into Hong Kong, they know how important it is to get off the mark early. Well, you couldn't have got off the mark any earlier. First ride for David Hayes, or first ride in Hong Kong, and bang, a winner. So it must have been a real dream start there on miracle victory.
Yeah, I couldn't have dreamt it to have been any better, but especially after spending that time in quarantine and after Christmas, I had to blow the cobwebs out a little bit, and I was feeling the pinch at the end of my first ride, but it was amazing to get a winner. And then straight away, I had a few nice rides lined up for the next week, and it really got the ball rolling straight away, which I couldn't have imagined.
You were booked to ride a couple that actually ended up winning, which obviously would have made the pain of the fall a little exaggerated. But I suppose the flip side of that, Luke, is encouraging to see that you were getting some good support.
Yeah, it was. Everyone said it can take quite some time before you get going. To hit the ground running like that was encouraging, and it sort of, I suppose, it kept my spirits up while I was in hospital, and now on the comeback time.
Luke, if you ride winners early, it doesn't take any time. They just want you. You'll keep getting the good rides. It takes a while if you don't get the better rides early and you don't ride winners. When do you think you'll start to have your first meeting back?
So I've been cleared to ride work on Saturday, and I've been keeping myself as fit as I possibly can over the last few weeks, and I'll give myself 2 weeks of track work and trials, and I'm hoping to be back on the 10th of April riding.
And who are you doing most of your track work for?
Well, this week I'll ride work for Ricky Yu, David Hall and David Hayes, who all initially, as soon as I got here, helped me out with a few rides. I know David Hayes and David Hall from Australia, and rode a lot for both of them. And I can actually recall the first time I met you, I rode in a Doncaster when I was about 16 years old and rode a horse named Zapor. And you came up to me in the rooms when I was laying there watching the races, and I was starstruck when you came up and started talking to me and telling me about the horse. I was in the rooms with Mick Dittman and Shane Dye and couldn't believe where I was. So so David's been a supporter of me for a long time. And then after I work for a few days and just get the feel of how my body is, then I'll try and branch out and do a few more for a few other trainers.
Is the family coming over, or will they stay in Australia?
At the moment, with the quarantine restrictions, it's probably not likely for them to come over until hopefully I go home in the break and then bring them back afterwards. But with the easing of restrictions, I'm hoping that they might be able to come in a couple of months' time, even if it's just for a couple of weeks' visit, and then I'll go back and get them, like I said, again in the break. But it is. It was a quick decision when I came over, and they couldn't come at the time, so it is quite a long time away without them.
Shane, do you remember that little 16-year-old kid leading into the Doncaster?
No, I can't. But I can remember Sapor. I can remember that horse.
You remember the horse, but not Luke.
Yeah, of course I remember Luke. You were in the Mauritius when I was there.
Yeah, I rode with Shane for a while in Mauritius, and actually he lived in an apartment above me, and I will vouch for him. He did used to like to ride track work, and he was very good judge. I learned a bit off him without asking, just by observing him. But I do remember some Mondays when he was still playing online poker, and he wasn't going to track work Monday morning. He was still online playing.
I actually changed that when I left. They changed the rules in Mauritius that jockeys had, because when I signed my contract, I said, "Listen, I play poker all night Sunday night and Monday, so I won't be at the track." Simple as that. So I agreed. And then I said, no, I'm not going Wednesdays, but every other day I was happy to go and ride track. Gallop mornings I was. But, you're right. I'd be up all night and wouldn't go to bed ever on a Sunday night. I went 2 days with no sleep.
I am convinced that there is a Netflix show following RS Dye around. I am convinced that would be an absolute beauty.
I'll tell you a funny story, Richo.
Oh, please do.
So when I was living there, actually, Danny Nicholic was there riding, and he used to live up above me. So he'd go to bed and I'd be playing poker at, he'd come down and watch, and it'd be 9 o'clock on a Sunday night. And he'd come down at 4:30, going to track work. He'd pop in, have a look, watch for 10 minutes. How you going? Then he'd go to track work. Then he'd come home at about 9:30. He'd come in and watch me play poker while he had done the whole morning at track work. I'd been playing poker. So, Luke, you are correct. That's what I used to do Sunday nights and Mondays.
Are you any good, Shane, at poker?
I survived at it while I was there.
Watch this space. We might delve into that. Hey, Luke, you've had a chance, probably more from afar rather than up close and personal, to assess the Hong Kong horse flesh. How do you assess it? Give us a comparison with Australian horses that you've ridden. What's the quality like?
I suppose the quality, I haven't ridden any top class ones yet, but the quality of those horses, the best horses look quite good. But then down to the lower class horses are probably, they're only country horses in Victoria anyway. So there's there's a big difference. But I suppose that's where the rating system works so well here.
And what in that brief time that you sort of were riding, Luke, was there one takeaway that is a point of interest for people watching in that you found obviously in Hong Kong, and it's a very limited sort of time span you were riding before you got injured, but is there anything that you sort of noticed or just made you that you didn't expect, I suppose, going to Hong Kong?
Not really that I didn't expect. I think being able to watch more racing and having had those few rides give me a little bit more of an idea of what to look for and what to expect. And then probably listening to Shane in this show talking about the importance of finding the fence and saving ground and how even the horses are is one thing that is probably a big difference and something that I'm getting my head around more and more watching the racing, in that the horses are very even in every race.
Mate, we've loved chatting to you, but we've also feel like we've played an important role because we're just trying to fill your day at the moment. I'm worried about you sitting there in that apartment, not able to get out, trying to work on a bit of rehab. Are you okay, buddy?
Yeah, look, I have my days where I get a bit homesick and miss the family. I think that's quite normal, but I've really been watching a lot of replays. Initially, when I first came out of hospital with the concussion, I was quite tired and on a lot of medication, so I slept most of the time. But now I'm a bit more energetic. I'm allowed to I'm off course, like Hutchi was saying. So when I exercise, I can go for a run around the bay or a bike ride, and I'm doing that every day. And still driving into the Union Hospital and doing rehab on most days. So I'm trying to fill my time in as much as I can. And then I've watched plenty of Netflix as well, Richard.
Oh, that is fair. Hey, mate, you look fit and you know you are good enough to succeed at this level in Hong Kong. So we're barracking hard for you. You'll be back in the saddle as quick as that, and we'll be all cheering you on, mate. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks, guys. And can I just ask Shane just to take it easy on me for my first few meetings? Don't,
mate, Luke, I don't care whether it was Mick Dittman or whoever. They're my best friend. I'll tell it how it is. I've always been like that. You know it.
You might be able to just turn a blind eye to me for a few weeks.
Hey, and I'll tell you something else, Luke. I cannot be brought. That's something I can't be. So don't offer anything because I'll knock it back.
Oh, that is
expensive to buy anyway, I reckon.
we can't afford him, I'm going to show you. Hey, Luke, you're a champion, buddy. Look forward to seeing you in the saddle.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
See you, mate.
Great stuff. There is Luke Currie. Well, the eyes of the world racing will be on Dubai for their annual World Cup. And Hutch, Saturday night Australian time. We've got an Australian interest with Damian Lane. We've also got some Hong Kong interest with horses that have raced at the international meeting. And you caught up with a special guest.
I did. I managed to catch up with Damian Lane, who's preparing for that World Cup meeting. What a meeting that is as well. And overnight, catching up with him, I congratulated him, of course, on his association with the Japanese trained horses, which he's had such a brilliant association with on another big global racing event.
Yeah, thanks, Hutchi. Yeah, great to be here. Obviously, something I've always aspired to do is ride in Dubai on World Cup night and to continue that relationship with the Japanese horses. Obviously, travelled to Hong Kong in December with one of them, and to do it again here in Dubai is really good to keep that rapport going, and hopefully we can have some success.
So race 5 is the UAE Derby, and that's the first ride for Damian Lane. He rides Crown Pride. There's around about a 25-1 chance in that race.
Yeah, that's his first ride on the card. It's actually race 4 on the World Pool card, so there's a little difference. There's an Arabian race, I think, the first event on the card. But I did ask him to talk through the record of Crown Pride.
Yeah, so he's had 3 starts, all been on the dirt, and he won his first 2 in really good style. Really good young. Looks like a good young up-and-coming horse. So he's still green. He ran in a better class race as his most recent start, and he got chopped out at the start and didn't have the best of luck. He probably could almost be 3 for 3. So from what I can see, looking back on this race in previous years, with horses that the Japanese have brought over, he lines as a very similar profile to some other horses that run really well. So, as I said, he's green and he's a young horse. So, as a lot of these are at this stage of their career, early Northern Hemisphere 3-year-olds. But nice horse who I'm looking forward to partnering with.
And then this Shima Classic is going to be magnificent. $6 million US prize pool. Group 1 race, Yabir and Shayra are indicative favourites, joint favourites around $4. So many great credentials there. Authority. Glory Vase, who's that Hong Kong Vase winner, is in the market as well, under double figures. Damian Lane's riding. Überleben for a Japanese horse.
Yeah, Überleben's a nice rider, but this is an absolute belt of a race, as you've mentioned, Richo. Now, on the World Pool, it's race number 7, and of course, it's another Japanese entrant ridden by Damian Lane, and I just asked him to tell us a little bit more about Überleben.
Yeah, she's a class mare. She won the Oaks in Japan last year. She then went on to run 6th in the Japan Cup, was a really good run at the end of the year. Her prep run was probably a tad disappointing last month, but the stable said she's really prepped up well since then. She needed the outing and really looking forward to getting on board her. Strong races, as you'd expect, and the Japanese bring a strong contingent for that race in particular. But she's a class mare and looking forward to getting on it. They both said they travelled really well. Don't normally get too bad reports, pre-race. But I can only go off what they said. I get to sit on both horses tomorrow morning, so have a little feel of them before the big day. Obviously, won't be doing too much, but hopefully they're in good order and they can run well.
So the Longines Dubai Shima Classics, an absolute ripper. Yabir and Shayra, as I mentioned, joint favourites. I mean, Yabir, what we saw from Yabir, whether it be in America, also in Europe, is world-class for Godolphin. Think about Glory Vase, you think about Huckham, think about Pile Driver, who we saw in Hong Kong as well. This is a great race to bet into.
This is the melting pot of all the form lines from around the world. This is why I love these meetings. That's why I said I love Hong Kong in December, where we get all these countries joining in with their representative stars. And it's the case once again. And not only a melting pot in terms of talent, but just getting back and harking to this World Pool, just to explain it a little bit more to punters, because in Australia, it'll be Tabcorp that you can bet through. And the reason the host is basically Hong Kong hosting the meeting from the rights holder, which in this case, obviously Dubai. But what it effectively means, Richo, is that all the money's going into one pot. So, in America, there might be 70 different partners. There's the UK tote. Everyone who's betting on this race through the World Pool, you're betting in a deep liquid market. So that's the attraction from a betting point of view, that there's a lot of liquidity there. If you want to have a good bet, Shane, you can have a bet into these pools because Hong Kong's hosting it. And obviously there's people joining in from all over the world from different respective countries.
Definitely. In this race, Clint, Yabir's going to be very hard to beat. He's an outstanding horse. He needs pace on in the race. He can pull. He'll get back, but geez, he can finish. But he just needs the pace on. If he relaxes, he could be too good. But this is the A grade. These are the best going round. It's an amazing field. Like the equal favourite, Shahara, I think he won the Japanese Derby, ran 3rd in a Japan Cup. His form's outstanding. But look at Glory Vase. He won the international race here. He hasn't had a run since then, so he's first up here. But Japanese horses tend to do it. But Pole Driver was probably unlucky, or he went back to the worst part of the track in the international 2,400 metre race Vase here in Hong Kong. So, it's just a great field when you go through it, and there's many chances. Like even the top one, Authorian, he ran 2nd in the Japan Cup, and it was a great 2nd, and then he come out and won really well his next start. So he'll be in the market. But it's a very good race. But if I'm having a tip, Yabra, he'll get back. If he relaxes, I think he wins.
Yeah, and we saw him in the States, and when your point's so valid, when he had the speed on, that acceleration and that finish was fantastic.
Yeah, I'm with you, Beer, as well. It'd be my, I'm with Shane. I think he's spot on there. And the other thing I love about him, Charlie Appleby.
Yeah.
I mean, Brilliant. Is there anybody better than him going around the world or anywhere. I mean, his record's phenomenal. He's just an incredible trainer.
Yeah, but don't underestimate as well for him to have a winner of a feature race at Dubai World Cup for His Highness Sheikh Mohammed is massive for everyone in Godolphin. There's also, of course, the Dubai World Cup, dominated by Life is Good. I've been just shopping around, having a look at some of the fixed prices around the world. In Aussie terms, it's $1.50. The Americans expected to totally dominate there. Todd Bletcher is the trainer, and expected to be too good.
Yeah, that's a long way from where I help my expertise, but he's dominates over there. And one thing with a lot of that dirt form, it usually stacks up. You don't get too many surprises. I think over the years, and this is just from memory, most of those that are in the market usually, are right to the fore.
Just one thing about Life is Good. He's never raced past 1,800. He's going to 2,000 metres for the first time. He's outstanding. He's got gate 1. He'll lead. And even though he's going to 2,000 metres, what you got to remember is in Dubai, it's very hard to make up a lot of ground on that on the dirt track. So leaders have normally a big advantage, and you see that every year on pace horses on the dirt. He's going to be very hard to beat. He's outstanding. His wins in America were amazing, and I think he'll run the 2,000 pretty easy.
So many great international meetings, and we'll be covering them all on this Hong Kong Racing podcast. Let's find some winners. Let's find some winners on Sunday. I've identified 3 races that we're all keen to bet into with our experts in Shane Dye and Clint Hutchison. So let's start in race 3, dominated by the beauties, Beauty Joy and also Beauty Fit.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting, I think, race this as well. Of course, as well, you got Beauty Fit with Joe Moreira riding. But Beauty Joy is the one that I think is very interesting. This is the one race on the card that I've actually priced up. Of course, on Hutchi's Honkers, we price every race, but for this vodcast, we like to just put up our market for this race. Now, Beauty Joy, I've got marked favourite here at $2.40. I think he's a very, very good chance. Back to Shartin, there's a couple of factors there, but Beauty Fit, I've at second favourite, $4.70, and then out to $8 for My Sugar. Only 8 runners. There's a little thing going on in Hong Kong at the moment. They've had some issues with travel with a few horses, so a few of the numbers are down, which is unusual. Normally we get capacity fields of 14 at Shartin, but only 8 runners, and there's a couple of races on the weekend that are in this mould. But
7 and 9. Race 1's only 7.
I'm not sure where Beauty Joy will be. It'd be obviously a leading chance in the market. He's going to be pretty short, but whether or not on the tote we get 240, we'll just have to wait and see. But just to have a look at his replay as well. Now, the key factor for me, last start at Happy Valley. Now, he had won and been a very impressive winner at Happy Valley, but this day, Zach Drew White, he went back, and there wasn't a great deal of speed. Have a look at him down the back here as the pace slackens in front. And Beauty Joy is very much like most, or like some horses, I suppose. He likes to get rolling. Now, you don't normally see a horse pull like this for basically 800 metres. He's got nowhere to go. He's got his mouth up, and he's not being tractable at all. He's being a very difficult ride for Zach. There's nothing much he could do. He was locked away inside. Horse still sprinted really well. He came home in 22.7 this day, and I thought it was an excellent performance given the fact that the pace was against him. He's over-raced for half of it, and he still managed to close off pretty well, and he hit the frame. So it was a great run in defeat. Of course, it didn't help us. Our followers that night, and we backed him and thought it was one of the better bets, but that was just a victim of circumstances. Now, I think what would have happened as well, Tony's realised this. He said, let's go back to Shartin, where he can go forward. This horse can lead. We've seen him lead in the past, and he was very impressive earlier in the preparation. In fact, first up 1,400. So I'm expecting Zach to be positive. He rides My Sugar. There's another on pacer. But Shane, I thought that those two could go forward. Zach can lead, maybe sit outside, and give him a very good chance to win this time around and turn it around.
I'd say My Sugar would probably lead from gate 1 with the kid on. They can't help themselves. They like to dig a bit early, and he might on him, although he could be suspect at the mile. He was last start. You're correct with Beauty Joy. Very good run. And has trialled since then and led the whole way in a 1,200-metre trial running very good time. So it's going to be very hard to beat. The other horse, of course, is Beauty Fit. He was very unlucky last start. Should have won for sure. If you see the video here, we turn for home, the horse there, he goes to go in, and all he had to do was wait for a few strides and the run comes. Now, when I'm riding, I'm always watching the jockey in front of me where their whips are. And if you see the whip, because the horse, the inside had the whip in the left hand and the outside had the whip in the right hand, he should have waited. And when you hit a horse, it always runs the opposite way. So he would have got a run in between, but he committed just that one stride too soon. That horse would have won by 2 lengths, I would say. So same owners, he's got a great chance. Joe's on him. It's a good race, even though there's 8 runners. There's 7 horses there. The only one that's out of form is CP Brave. The rest are all in form, racing very well. So it's a very good race. But I'd go with you, Clint. Beauty Joy from Beauty Fit.
Yeah,
So
okay.
Maybe the Q. We could play the Q.
We could play the Q. The Beauty Fit was also a play for us last time, so that was a painful watch. And when I thought he'd win, but listening to Shane, who's pretty good at analysing how far they would have won by, I think in those instances, given his background and a couple of lengths, that was a painful watch, Richo, because he was a very, very good price on that occasion.
I prefer not to talk about it. I prefer to roll
$8.80, I think.
I think we were very, very plain saying we don't want to talk about the price that we missed out. We're going to look forward, not back, RS.
Sorry, $7.70. I just checked on my screen.
I feel better now. Race number 5. Let's bet into race number 5 when we continue on our beauty theme here. But rather than Zach this time, you're flipping over to Joe, and that's Beauty Mission.
This is a very interesting race. This is an interesting race because we've got 4 horses, Campione, Beauty Mission, who we were on last start as well at a good price and ran well against the pattern, Easy Step, Majestic Knight. Now, all of these horses come out of a race, and there's sort of pros and cons with each runner. Campione was sort of first up, and he's going to improve. But he also probably had a little bit of the pattern in his favour, but they went hard, so he'll improve. Beauty Mission was excellent when you consider that he's back and wide. And nothing really closed off out there all day, really. So, and you got Joe Barrier 1, so he's going to really improve on that. And then there's Majestic Knight, which won't get the I think the market support with Lyle Hewitson riding in a wide barrier, but also was first up and closed off pretty well. I don't really think that there's much between a few of these. This is the run here. Now, Campione is back on the fence. Good spot, but went very hard. Now, Easy Snip in the outside him there is also in this race. Do they do the same again? Do they go out and really set a strong tempo? If they do, then it's going to suit Beauty Mission probably more. Joe on, Gate 1, and the horse widest of all out there, which is Majestic Knight. And he might be a value play in the race. But yeah, that's quite an interesting one, Shane. I think provided that the track is even and fair, and I've sort of looked at this meeting on the A+3 last season post Derby, and we had winners from the rail to about 10 off, and from 0 to I think it was about 7 lengths from the lead speed. So it was a very fair track. Assuming it's a fair track, how do you see the race being run, and did you also see it as being quite an even contest?
Yeah, it's very even. I think Campione, Tony's horse, he likes to lead from Gate 4 lead, unless Easy Snap, as you said, takes him on. Outside that, the pace isn't there. Of course, Beauty Mission got back the other day, but from Gate 1, he's not going to get as far back. But he has had, I think, 4 runs and been back in every race. He's a chance. I thought a horse who's very interesting is John Sizer's horse, Power Nap. How do you pronounce that?
Yeah, Power Cap.
Cap. He had a problem, and his first up run in September was really good. He got back and run on, and he showed nothing last season. Now, since then, he's had 4 trials, and his first 3 are at China, and he just went round out the back, didn't do much. But his last trial, he looked the goods coming from back and ran on a little under a hold. He could get back out of it and charge home and be a bit of a surprise. And the other one there is Proud Dragon, who ran really well up the straight. He ran a good third. I think it's not a strong race as in class, but they're very, very even, and you can make a case for a few horses. If I've got to tip one at this stage, I'll tip the 2, Campione.
Yeah, and the other thing, we haven't mentioned Kumazi with Zach on board. Let's not forget him. His run 2 back, Flying Ace, Super Fortune, Armour Eagle, Gallant Express, Lightning Bolt. They finished ahead of him. They've all come out in one since. So it's like Shane said, it's a very even race. So I wouldn't take a short price about anything. And you might be best advised just to watch.
The horse you just said, Clint, also, he ran on a wet track last start, and that form's been so mixed from that day. Horses that run really well that day haven't gone as good, and horses that went really bad that day have gone really good since. So it's a bit hard to assess that day. Gallant Express won that race, and it wasn't a bad race. He's had a trial since then, and he trialled all right. So there's nothing wrong with him. So as you said, we can make a case for quite a few in the race.
As I said, it's interesting Shane's going with Campione there because I marked him like I think about a 460 favourite. But for all the markets, get on the website and have a look because it's a really competitive race.
That's what I do.
But I'd like to see it be a leader's track to be on him. Like if they're winning down the outside, off the pace, I don't want to be on him. But if it's a leader's track, that'll help him a lot.
And one of these days we'll get RSI to share us some of his intel in amongst maybe a little special column one day at Hutchi's Honkers, just RSI's
late mail.
How much you paying me?
Stats. We're paying you a fortune. Race number 10, we're going to blast out in the
That one come from left side. I didn't see that one coming, boys.
We're going to pay you a whole heap because we're going to back another beauty. Do we back another beauty horse here?
No.
You're falling in love with all the beauties. Race number 10.
There's a lot of them out there. There's a lot of beauties up there.
Beauty Live here. Recent Joe Moreira rides. So Moreira on Beauty Live and Zach Purton on Circuit Stella.
This is a very interesting race, and I'll tell you why, Richo, because Joe Moreira won on Brilliant Way last start. Beauty Live has had a good association with. Of course, he rode it last start when it was beaten by Leading Fortune over the mile, and they're coming back. But this is what we see in Hong Kong, and Shane will sort of add to this after I've finished. But Joe Moreira, obviously, and leading jockeys, just which way he decides to go really impacts the market.
It shapes the market. Yeah.
Now, he had every possible chance this day. He went forward. The pattern was in his favour. He set slow sections. There were simply, to my eye, zero excuses. Let's not forget, he was $1.50 favourite. And I looked, when you see this run, you'd have to be disappointing. So his two's on, he's been beaten with every possible chance. He really should have been winning. I know there was a bit of cushion in the track, but I'm not gonna accept that as a reason. He comes back to 1400. So the feedback must have been, one would imagine, Joe said, you're gonna have to drop him back in trip. That's what I'm sort of reading between the lines. However, I don't think it's the right form either way. I think Joe either has made a mistake choosing this horse, or he might have had a commitment straight after this race. But the other one he was riding, I think, has got a better chance, that's for sure. That is in Brilliant Way, who drops a lot in weight, has rated similarly, and now Wagner Borges takes over. So I think he'll be a better price than he should be, but they're going to find it very hard to beat Circuit Stella. I think Zach can win this. I think he's one of the better bets on the card, Circuit Stella. He was excellent behind Galaxy Winners, and he nearly should have beaten Beauty Live when Zach rode him. It was one of Zach's poorer rides of the season, a couple back when he was back, and it was probably the way the race unfolded more than anything that Zach did wrong, but he got posted, took off a long way out, got covered excess ground, was only beaten a length. There's a 6 kilo swing in favour of Circuit Stella on Beauty Live the last time they met. He's going to map better here. So he ticks a lot of boxes, and he'll be one of the better bets on the day, Circuit Stella.
Agree or disagree, Shane?
I wouldn't be so hard on Beauty Live because he jumped up, I think, from 113 pounds to 124 pounds. He's a young horse, and he went from 14 to a mile. I thought he'd win, though. He looked the winner, and Clint's right, what he said. He was probably disappointing. But he's had that one run now over the mile, so he's going to be a little bit stronger, you would think, and coming back to 1400 can only benefit him. He's going to be hard to beat. I wasn't overly impressed with Brilliant Way last start. I actually backed him last start. I thought he was a moral and would win easy. And he got to the front. He didn't dash clear. He just battled, but he's got 114 pounds, which these nice young horses, when they go into class 3 with that type of weight, they just run well. They always do. So he's going to be there somewhere. But I thought he should have won a bit easier last start. But he could win. It wouldn't be a surprise. And the other horse, Clint said, he is right. Circuit Stella. He's going to be hard to beat, and he has got gate 1, and it is a 13-pound swing around, which is a lot in weight to Beauty Live from 2 starts ago. So Clint's singled the 3 horses out, and they're going to probably run 1, 2, 3.
If I push you for a best bet early, Shane's, it's a question with notice for you while you think about that, and we don't declare them too early for Shane.
I'll run through all of my bets. We've got Beauty Joy. I think it's a good bet in race 3. I think the change of tactics, he'll go forward back to Sha-Tin. Big positives for this horse, and he'll be very hard to beat.
Race 3, number 1.
Race 3, number 1. And then I think the next best would be Circuit Star on the last. I thought he was a great chance. Once again, I think he renews rivalry with Beauty Live. Well, I'm hoping it's too short in the market, and we'll get a little bit of an edge there with a better run in transit from gate 1. And once again, Zach Purton on board. Just one for
race 10, number 2.
Yeah, race 10, number 2. Now, I've got one at a little bit wide. I know we sometimes have horses that are in the market.
A little juicy one.
There's a little juicy one, and I know you love a horse at a price. I think in race 7, Happy Daily, who comes back to Sha-Tin, he might go out at a reasonable price with Keith Young on board. But I didn't mind his last run at Happy Valley. We wasn't suited there. And back to Sha-Tin, easier race. I thought he might be able to run well at somewhat an each way price as well.
Shane, you've got something for our audience?
I normally like tipping 10s or 20-1 chances, but because of the small fields this week, that's not going to eventuate. When you're getting smaller fields, of course, something stands out in the races, and you're just not getting as much value as you've seen in Australia when they bet every race at $2. I'll go race 9, number 1. It's going to be short, Oriental Smoke. From gate 4, it's going to get the right run on pace. He got beat the other day, had every chance, but he only got beat a nose by Golden Empire. And you got to remember, Golden Empire has come out since and won a Class 3 race very well, which was the race we had on as the ride of the day. So the form out of that race is pretty good. And the start before that, he got beat by Galaxy Witness. And Galaxy Witness has come out and won a Class 3 race since then. So the 2 races he's run second, the form's been very good. He gets his chance, but he's not going to be odds.
Okay, and Zach Purton again. So our experts are expecting Zach Purton to be really hard to beat on Sunday. Hutch, as always, a lot of fun. Luke Currie, a highlight. Damian Lane, and of course, RS is always the highlight.
RS is always the highlight. Great to have him on board. And
my highlight today, I hate to say this, was your head. It's the first time I've seen it glowing in a long time. You normally have a hat on, all those beanies to cover it, but it's a beautiful, I don't know, look at it glowing. I bet you all those women out there where you go anywhere rub it like anything like this.
Mate, it's the inner health. It's the glowing coat that you look for when you see the horses that we want to back. Hey, team.
It'd look good in Shane's nightclub up on the coast. That's for sure. We'll be there one day.
We're going to do an outside broadcast. In fact, we're going to bring all of our audience with us one day. All right, good luck, everyone, over the weekend. Really looking forward to great racing in Hong Kong. Jump on hutchieshonkers.com for all the form analysis. Hope you enjoy the show.